ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our second European game of the afternoon. We just watched an exciting match of the week take on between Fnatic and Paradigm, and this time around we're going to see Myrmidons take on JusTus.
And this is going to be one of those games that a lot of people may not be interested in to begin with, but when you work out exactly what these two teams are playing for, it's a little bit more interesting than we would have expected.
Right, so we're looking at the number 7 and the number 8 seeds, but as you said, it's really about what these teams are fighting over. So what are they fighting over?
Well, first of all, we can look at JusTus. They're the number 8 team right now, and JusTus, they've not had a great season. They were formerly known as Upcoming Stars last split and the split before, and finished 8th both times. This split, they have the chance to not be 8th. It's a hey, improvement is what you're looking for.
All right, yeah, so they're looking towards just trying not to be number 8.
Myrmidons, however, the French boys, who were the newly promoted team this season, they can still make LAN. They can still make LAN. They have to win today against JusTus, and then they have to beat Dignitas next week. If they can do that and run that gauntlet, they'll go to LAN and Dignitas won't.
All right, so Myrmidons still in the running. They've got a 2-0 our opposition JusTus, who we'll take a look at right here. Now, what's interesting to me here is it's about the relative strength of the teams, and I stress the word relative because the number 7 and number 8 seeds, these games aren't very interesting when we see number 1 versus 8 or 2 versus 7. Sure. But when it's 7 versus 8, Hindu, don't forget, even the lower end sides, these guys are professionals. They're very good at what they do. So when you see these two teams that are close to each other, it's very exciting.
And Zephyr as well on that roster we just saw, just to take note of this, Covertactician will be subbing in for him. He's not going to be available today to play for JusTus, so they're going to be using a sub. And talking about subs, well, the team against them today, Myrmidons, they've had a lot of roster issues the whole season long and been using subs every week, but I believe this week, after is the full roster. Well,
take a look. We haven't seen Jermain in a while. Myrmidons, of course, being the team that's going to be taking on JusTus. The team that's still in it, Myrmidons going to be rooting for the 2-0 sweep here in our game today. As we said, Jermain going to be joining us again. That duo lane, Dardez and Jermain, forming up the Bruise Brothers, as we like to call them. Really, I mean, this is what started to make splashes early on in the season.
It did make splashes at the beginning. They had some good team fights where LeMoGoW also joined them as well. And it was all about those three really having to have good times in the duo lane and the solo lane for Myrmidons to really find anything. Tynz was not on the roster originally. Well, he was originally before the SPL, but then Sanjo came in. Sanjo switched out. They started off with Get Fisher, then brought somebody else in. Doc Dodo came in. Then LeFales is now here as well. So they've been switching and switching and switching. They've not found any sort of like team chemistry yet that I feel that they could just stand behind the whole season.
Yeah, I mean, this team has just been a rotating carousel of different members, which is why it's interesting that they're the ones in 7th place really trying to get to LAN. As we said, the situation here is we have to see a 2-0 come out of this team and then again follow up next week and beat out Dignitas. We'll get into picks and bans and see how these two teams draft up against each other and opt for, well, do we see top tier picks or do we see comfort picks coming out today?
I expect we'll see top tier picks as per usual. This is the SPL after all. I don't think we'll see too much flavor. We may see 1 or 2 flavoursome picks, maybe on the side of JusTus. Like we said, they're really only fighting to get themselves out of 8th position. It's a good reason to fight, though. Get yourself some sort of thing of like, well, we did 1 place better than last season. And if you can do that every season, then eventually you'll be first.
Sure. Yes, that's one way.
Seasons, though, right?
That's one way to look at it. I know a couple of people speaking to some of the players that have been on the bottom side of things before, Hindu. Sometimes when you have nothing to lose, you have everything to gain, and it's just fighting for that opportunity to earn another win.
You know you've got no pressure on you now. The pressure's technically gone, so it's like, all right, cool. I just get to play Smite professionally. And get paid for chilling in some games of Smite.
Yeah, don't forget.
Then,
I mean,
you know, things come to you if you play that way. If you've relaxed in your body and mind, everything works out well for you sometimes.
Exactly. Don't forget the way that these games are played, or paid rather, the way the players are paid, all has to do with your seating or your situation in the standings at the end of the split. 8th. We'll get $20,000. 7th goes a step up. So at the end of the day, if JusTus have nothing to hang their hat on outside of LAN, they can still fight for that 7th place payday.
It's all about the money, money, money. But if I remember this, it's all about the wins right now, because they can still make the LAN, which could shoot their prize money up something rotten. Neith, though, first pick coming out of JusTus.
So So we saw the Neith first pick last game, but that
did.
was sort of the sub-meta between those two teams. Why do we see a first pick Neith here?
This is a different sort of situation, but very similar at the same time. It's very weird for me to say that, but the bans are completely different this time round.
Right.
Look at where the ban strategy is that came out. Immediately, those 4 bans, they saw the top contested bans every single week, week in, week out. The rise of Neith, though, is another factor that we're starting to see a little bit more. Same for the rise of Athena, which we've not seen drafted just yet. So I think picking it early means you can have this flex pick of I can go in 3 different roles and not give too much away.
Ymir picked up for JusTus, which sort of sports a similar situation where he can go in the jungle or the support role, or sometimes we even see him in solo. Hades picked up on the other side, and you mentioned it before. I'm going to take note right here because this is the first thing I noticed. 6 gods locked in. We're going to round 2 of bans. No Athena.
No Athena just locked in yet. I'm not overly surprised by that because we see the Ymir drafted by Team JusTus instead. They want to go for the more aggressive option here. Probably ban away a Geb if they want to, because Geb's pretty good at dealing with the Ymir freezes that come out with those shields.
Right.
So they may look to do that. They may look to ban the Athena as well and not give that one over to the Myrmidons. But to be fair, Dardez, he likes those aggressive sort of supports. He can play the defensive ones too, but boy, is it fun to watch him play like the Bacchus and the Ares and look for aggression.
Yeah, we'll see how these guys go. I don't think we're going to see the Hades, and there it is. There's the ban. The
Just
ban for
it.
Bacchus out there against
You
Myrmidons.
have to respect Dardez and his support builds. Some of the pro teams that were in last split, when they came to the last regionals, were like, yo, watch out for Dardez, because this boy's good. And he's shown it when he's been on the games.
Exactly. He's really been making waves, and unfortunately the team hasn't been able to bring it together for wins, but we see consistent high performance out of that dual lane. Dardez and Jermain really combining for some quality play. Apollo going to start things off for that dual lane on Myrmidon's side as they select him.
I think the Apollo pick there is because they're not 100% certain who they're against. Take into account Chronos and Neith both have attack speed slows as well, which Jermain, he likes to default to the Rama. His Rama is very, very good. He can hit a majority of all his snipes on that god as well. But against a Neith, not the greatest matchup for a Rama. Against a Chronos, these attack speed slows could become an issue for him. That's why I think we've gone for the Apollo for better positional awareness.
Hercules is going to be picked up for Myrmidon, so do you reckon we're going to see the Hercules in that support role for Dardez?
Could be the Thor as well.
Very true.
Could be the Thor as well. We've seen more Thor than we've seen Hercules this split. Last split, maybe more Hercules. We'll find out. But then if that's the case, yeah, it's going to have to be Hercules in the support. Because can you really put Herc jungle nowadays? I guess you could.
Yes, you definitely can.
But it's not as likely, is it?
I mean, it goes either way. Hercules is a little bit flexible. It's one of those situations, sort of like Chaac, where Chaac is traditionally built very defensively, but once we saw Zelia and even Maniac in the last game sort of change it up, very acceptable.
True.
I think Hercules is sort of the same idea, where traditionally built defensively, but at the end of the day, you could build an aggressive item on him and switch things around, but we will see Dardez be playing that Hercules in the support role, and then he'll put fails on the Thor.
Mentioned aggression, he's going to be able to be a front line with this Hercules as well. Blink, Bluestone is the first 2 things I want to note on him.
Woof.
This is going to be an aggressive lane. Bluestone, not something you necessarily see too much on. I wouldn't expect it too much out of Hercules. Reason being is because Driving Strike is one little bit, does damage, but then the dot. But then your Earthbreaker, well, you generally want to use your Earthbreaker not necessarily for wave clear, at least in the duel, and you're looking for picks more than anything. It's not the easiest lane, though, to really find picks on. Actually, I'm going to say, not the easiest lane to find picks on, but hold up, where are these? Okay, Sanjo is in the jungle here. I was confused by the lineup on the left-hand side. I was like, wait a second, who's in the mid lane and who's in the Hunter role? But I actually think the Hercules pick is good against the Chronos, not as great against the Neith, though, because of the backflip.
And that's going to work out for Myrmidon's favor since Fexez is playing the Neith, so that means we'll see Neith over in the middle lane, which will put Chronos over there in the left-hand side, teaming up with Qiwen on that Ymir.
And Fexez is going to go for the Neith build that we've seen a couple of times here. It'll be Rush Boots, more than likely a Soul Eater, maybe Transcendence afterwards, but he wants the mobility to make sure he avoids the damage coming out from Tynz's Nox here this time round. Nice route, though. Good poke.
A lot of poke coming out onto Fexez. Similar amount onto Tynz, though, as he takes a lot of the minion aggro.
Surprised that we've not seen many Noxes really try out taking a power pot at the start of the game. It does delay their build a little bit, but you do have kill potential at level 2. If you can land the silence, followed by the root inside the combo, that god is going to be below 25% health, and if your jungler's nearby, quick hit, and that's going to be the first blood. Power pot could be something we see coming forward on Nox in the future, in the mid lane.
Junglers meet up with their mid laners. And we'll just pretty much see standard clear coming out here as we see mid laner and jungler for both teams head back to the back camps after they clear their wave. This is sort of that dance that we talked about a couple of broadcasts ago, where this is where what we expect. Junglers meet up with mid laners, they clear waves, and then they alternate with back camps. It's all about how you change things up in what makes sense for the early game.
Now, the biggest issue in this game as well that you look between the two, JusTus and Myrmidons, is that they've both had terrible seasons. And I say terrible seasons in the politest way possible. But what it is that when you fall behind, when either of these teams fall behind, they do not come back into a game.
Okay.
And this is why the beginning of this game now is it's going to be a big standoff between the two. Because the team that starts falling behind will be the one that loses it. If anything's to judge the whole season long, whoever starts to die will be the one that loses. So you can see the respect that both teams will give each other.
Good freeze onto Dardez, followed up by the ice carpet, but tanky Hercules. Not necessarily tanky, but it's about the heal. So Hercules just heals up the damage that he already took. So
the problem with Hercules in this lane, he's an aggressive support to begin the game with. Keep an eye out for the blink driving strike to be looking for, followed by an Earthbreaker to pull them back in. But in the early game, Hercules is not the frontline tank you want him to be, because he needs to max the heal first of all to get that online. And not only that, get the heal online is one thing, but then it's also to hold that fort. Big blink in mid.
And an ultimate out of LeFales is going to make everything
Sanjo
that
could
Sanjo
die
just
there.
tried to do not really work out. The CC immunity coming out of Thor made sure that the big bite from the dog was unable to really carry.
That, for me, is just the story of these two teams this season. I think we could have seen Myrmidons pick up a kill on Sanjo there, but they were worried about it. Both teams playing a little bit
timid.
Safe. Too safe, a little bit too much. I think they've both got killed. They've all got kill potential across the map.
There's a flip and a nice follow-up onto Dardez, and this could be a problem for him, but a strong wall. Now all of a sudden Jermain's the one isolated, and there's the ultimate out of the Neith, but VoteNBK hits the time rift before it comes through, and first blood goes on the side of JusTus.
And you could see how that was played out. That was a nice little Earthbreaker from Dardez to find it, but the response from Qiwen was the one that made the impact play for me there.
Oh, yeah.
It was a very important freeze. The wall was good to zone Jermain in as well, and in the end, Dardez, to be fair, Dardez could have got out then. He stuck around a little bit too long, and he was trying to support his teammate more than anything.
Yeah, exactly. Qiwen really looking at him right there. It's a 1-2 punch coming out from Hercules that really does things. You get the flip out of the Earthbreaker and then the driving strike, but you can be interrupted in between while the player's in the air. Qiwen saw his opportunity and went for it. Smart play and quick play coming out of the guys on JusTus.
And JusTus as well, it went to VoteNBK. That's one thing I want to touch on. VoteNBK for me has been the standout player on JusTus this season. He's had the best performances I've seen out of the whole roster as time has gone on. Giving that over to a hyper carry like Chronos as well, he could potentially run this game from that point forward. I think we need to see Myrmidons try and focus him now and just make sure he doesn't continue managing an easy early game.
Qiwen combines with Sanjo to quickly take out those mid-harpies. Myrmidons thought that it was just Sanjo coming over, so they rotated to take a look, but before they even got there, they were absolutely gone due to the good clear coming out of Ymir.
It's one of those games still at the moment where you can just see the farm is continuing between the two. Only two sets of full boots finished at the moment in respect to Qiwen. Going for the cooldown boots, which we see more and more on the supports nowadays, especially because we just changed it where we're going to give the mana to those boots as well. The mana to those boots away from the magical penetration ones.
Exactly. They're just so useful. We see it's actually very interesting because we get to see almost all of the boots being purchased. Magical boots will be purchased sometimes on Ymir, sometimes on Bacchus, sometimes on Ares, because that really allows those gods to be more aggressive like they will. Sometimes we even see reinforced greaves just to allow the characters to be even more tanky. But here, we're seeing the cooldown boots. It's just going to allow more abilities to come out. I mean, it's a very basic statement to say cooldown plus mana equals more spells. But with Ymir, you really want those freezes.
It's funny with tips the two boots for mage options, though. In the magical boot, they choose the Magi and choose the Focus. Whichever one has the mana added to them is the one that starts getting played the most. Because when you think about what the other passives are, one gives cooldown reduction, one gives penetration. So that little balance is big. But hold that thought, rewind forced on to VoteNBK. He's going to be in an awkward spot, but there's no real follow-up allowed. Oh my god, VoteNBK can find a free kill.
Neith ult comes out of nowhere, and VoteNBK throws down the time rift, and he's going to get the #2 kill for JusTus. Coming out by the middle of the jungle. Neith in some trouble now after that ultimate. Nox ult going to be dodged out by Fexez. Freeze onto LeFales, and he'll beads, but you can't beads a wall. But still, he finds a way out. VoteNBK just ticks him with the hit, and Qiwen gets the kill.
Qiwen should not have taken that kill if he could help it. They should have given that one over.
Basic.
Sanjo in trouble, so beautiful. Will connect to return a kill for him. Jermain's in trouble though now, but immediately gets to his chariot. Maybe he'll go in now. Will he go in looking for Fexez? Will he? No.
He's going to play it safe. There's too many members of JusTus here. Smart play by Jermain there. So if that ultimate came out after he was frozen, he was dead. Because the freeze, followed up by the ice carpet and whoever else is around to throw a basic or two at Jermain, he's going to be toast. He reads the situation, understands that he's going to get frozen, hits that ultimate so that when the freeze comes in, he's already CC immune. Apollo gets out lickety-split.
Yep, now we're going to see just him in the solo lane as well. Oh, hold that fort mid lane. There's a pressure again. Fexez is going to get deleted by Tynz on this Nox. The rise of Nox is another thing to talk about because she's started to hit competitive play, at least in Europe, with abandonment, really.
I mean, so Nox, she just brings so much damage, sort of like a Habois or an Apwash, but she winds up having a different way of employing that damage, and with the recent change with the recent change to how her abilities work, it's different. But Nox is taking on Neith real quick. Let's take a look at player damage. How much damage does Fexez have?
Fexez has a unique number of damage. It's the same amount that you can actually hold that. Sanjo is in a world of hit. He's going to get deleted. Fails will pick up the kill.
In trouble too.
Qiwen might try to turn this one back though. He's got to get in here early. He got out just in time.
He disappeared.
Did he die? No. He's alive. He's alive. There was no kill confirmation. Okay.
I just didn't see it.
Ninja fails. That's what happened there. Now you see me, now you don't. He's like John Cena.
LeMoGoW in the right-hand lane, really pushing things up. So this is a very interesting sort of take on how characters, or teams rather, evolve over the course of the season. This is Myrmidons' first split in the SPL, and so when they came in, they were a little bit of an unknown entity, and people or players only knew a little bit about them. And one of the things to really take home was watch out for MoGoW's Hades. Teams have to ban this Hades. This Hades is the biggest thing since sliced bread. Myrmidons came out, it was banned. He got to play it once. He went a fantastic game, fantastic slash line. And then we saw a couple of more games where Hades snuck through, and he didn't really perform well. And since those last games, Hindu, it really hasn't been banned. He's been allowed to play it, and here we are in week 9 of the season, and it's not even a talking
Blink
point.
And Ragnarok used Jermain in a lot of trouble, but wisely uses his ultimate. Doesn't have much mana, but it does get him out of trouble again. But you're right, going back to the LeMoGoW point there. LeMoGoW, for the most part, it's all about his season. Wait a second, Fexez is dead. Oh, the double tap didn't connect. Sorry, the wall didn't connect is the bigger point.
Yep.
But now the rotation in from VoteNBK, and Sanjo may try and make them pay for that. Fails.
Ultimate onto fails. He's going to beat so he can get away. Gold Fury now pulled, largely as a...
How did he get out?
Just walked away, honestly.
He was behind the Gold Fury with no mana, just trying to base, and he's surrounded by 3, and they don't collapse on him. They're so worried about a rotation. This is what I'm talking about these two teams here, after, is that throughout the season, they're so worried about losing this game that they're scared to actually win the game.
Well, you did get the rotation. MoGoW finds himself in the mid lane now.
It was a quick rotation over, but it was just surprising that you did not see them commit for that. There was 3 men surrounding LeFales who had, enough mana for 1 hammer jump, with 3 of them and a World Weaver available, and a Fenrir that can chase after. I'm surprised they didn't go in.
Interesting about the Fenrir, so it's no surprise that we see no points really put into the ultimate after the fact. A lot of times, the ultimate's one of the last things to level up. But 2 things that I want to note. 1, Fenrir is leveling Unchained, which is something that we usually see out of solo lane Fenrirs. Normally in the jungle, we'll see the Brutalize approach, a different way that we see out of Sanjo, and not a single point put into that steroid.
I think he's got 1 in there now at least, but the difference between the Fenrir here is he's got to convert as much damage as he can early, and that's the big key. Because if he tries to use the Brutalize and max that one first, look at the opposition and what they can do. Silence on Tynz, Driving Strike on the Hercules, Mare's available from Jermain, MoGoW, silence again, and then you've still got a wall from Fails to deal with too. Too many things that are going to reduce your damage, and sometimes gods may not be the best when you max Unchained first, but you have to take the situation into advisement. Ymir is dead.
Qiwen just gets absolutely smoked. A flip, a kick, a pillar of agony, and a ball gets thrown down, and Qiwen falls.
Jermain's going to fall too.
Oh.
He has to go back to base. If he doesn't go back to base, he's dead, but I still think he's dead anyway.
Toasted.
Fexez OP. Locks on. Do you remember when he had that picture from back on Mortelli? We had that red eye on one of his pictures.
The Terminator.
Yeah, he's the Terminator. He just terminated the life of Jermain then.
So yeah, Fenrir really the interesting leveling approach. It reminds me of Thor. How you can go multiple routes with Thor. You can either max Mjolnir's Attunement or the Berserker's Barrage. Both are really sort of acceptable, just like Unchained or Brutalize, you see right here. And normally you'll traditionally, I guess, when you first start playing Thor, you'll go Berserker's Barrage, but when you look at a composition like this that has multiple ways of stopping you, instead, you'll go ahead and you'll max Mjolnir's Attunement. So here we're seeing sort of the same thing out of Fenrir. Sanjo realizes everything that you said about the ways the opposition has to stop the Brutalize, which is a channeled ability, and so he puts the points into Unchained, which is just a one hit for the damage.
The funny thing is that most gods at a high level of competitive play, they can be built differently, in terms of skill differently as well, depending on situations. But hold that thought, wall, and then
Freeze.
Preemptive heal came out from Dardez there, but I don't think it's going to be enough to keep him alive from the amount of burst that's about to be put upon him by VoteNBK.
NBK showed up and joined late just to throw a Time Rift out there and a large bunch of damage coming out towards the end. Nox tried to make things happen, but Sanjo, using that Ragnarok, was able to bring the target out of the circle, preventing the damage that Nox was trying to deal.
Can we check with the golden experience here? Because I feel like this game's just existing right now. Both these teams are finding picks against each other, but no one's capitalizing on it. I don't see towers being taken. The only one that's gone down so far is the one that I expect to see in LeMoGoW in his traditional split push and find tower strategy.
Exactly. We're going to see Gold Fury here, which is important because this is a big objective, but it doesn't come off of the back of a big kill. Myrmidons going to show up, and taking a look at the graphs, it goes the way of JusTus. Fails in some trouble now. Smart Aegis, but it doesn't last long enough, and the combination of Qiwen and Chaac take him down.
Yeah, Covertactician to pick up one kill, but Tynz now may be able to continue the pressure with the support of LeMoGoW coming in. The World Weaver helped out a little bit from Fexez to allow Covertactician to escape, but he's still being pressured. The root will lock him in place a little bit longer. The Axe Murderer Chaac could potentially fall, but the Juke Boots are good from the substitute.
Barely gets out of the circle there as Covertactician. He'll make it out home alive. And a couple of good trades is going to even up the scoreline. 6-6, read the kills for both of these teams. And even with the Gold Fury, teams are even closer than before. Let's just take a look at the graphs for fun. Teams are separated by 300 gold, 17 gold.
Myrmidons had a good advantage at the start of the game. We say Myrmidons had a good advantage, right? But where did all the first kills go? JusTus. VoteNBK picked up, what, two kills, and then Ymir got one as well over on that duo side. And yet the golden experience is still in Myrmidons' favor. How is that possible? I'll tell you why. Because they're getting more control in the jungle. They're sharing experience better. LeMoGoW dominated early in the solo lane as well, and that tower also makes an impact.
Yeah, that's really at the solo lane. If you take a look at these individuals, solo lane is separated by over 400 gold, just right there. Everyone else seems to be a little bit closer. It's the solo lane. LeMoGoW really making it work. We saw just how much LeMoGoW was standing on front of the tower. And Qiwen's going to get kicked on the tower.
I love this plan. Oh, okay, that boulder wasn't the greatest artist, but still, it was a lovely plan. Look at what Tynz does. He sets him up with the root, and then the Earthbreaker is the follow-up to continue the aggression.
You know, that wall was the greatest Hindu. It didn't stun, but it blocked, and that's what we see out of the smart Thors. It blocked, like, the stun would have been perfect, right? But you get the block, so Qiwen couldn't turn around and walk out the way he wanted to. Instead, he was forced to walk the other direction, which just time, he's going to get hit by the tower a few too many times.
Though he doesn't find the driving strike underneath the tower. Earthbreaker missed as well. World Weaver came in from Fexez to stop the issue, but look at this, Sanjo in the jungle, under pressure from Fails. Covertactician here on this Chaac, but he's surrounded by 4 right now. Hades is here, LeMoGoW deletes 1, which actually goes over to Dardez as Jermain takes down Chaac.
It's a 2-for-0 trade or 2-for-0 exchange. Going the way of Myrmidons.
What happened there? Myrmidons made an attempt on the duo lane to try and make a pick, didn't find it, but then JusTus responding got caught in the jungle because Myrmidons expected the rotation in 2.
And here, this is the first time, even that Gold Fury that we just saw earlier, Hindu Man, that wasn't really off of the back of a kill. They got a kill, and enough time passed for the players to really spawn. This is the first time that we're seeing an objective or something taken after the fact of a strong kill. Myrmidons take a tier 1, and they're still here in the left lane. They're pushing for a tier 2, but Sanjo's coming from behind, gets a strong stun. Jermain's in some trouble.
Good ult. Should be able to delete them all. Yes, Qiwen should get a double kill from that big I go boom. And a tier 1 falls down in favor of Myrmidons. But JusTus, well, they fought back again a little bit.
JusTus, with that ultimate and the double kill coming out of Qiwen, that's going to save the life of the tier 2. Myrmidons looked like they wanted to stay and push that tier 2 all day, but Qiwen said no.
Myrmidons overdid it. That was the issue. They stuck around too long. They didn't respect the respawn timers of the boys of JusTus. Sanjo was back online. As soon as he swung in through the jungle where they didn't have wall coverage to see him coming, what happens? Qiwen engages, which they didn't expect, and in the end, it was a nice combo of skills.
And JusTus looking really hard to clean this one up and even things out. We have a strong tower killer of Chronos. He's very, very strong when it comes to killing towers. So being able to just walk in and tank it is Qiwen. Also, Neith is there. Fexez joining the rank of the hunter. So two basically hunters. Yes, Chronos is the mage. Two basically hunters, Hindu man. That tower's going to fall.
It is. I mean, my biggest issue this game, though, is JusTus got off to an early start. They got a few kills, but they didn't capitalize on it either. They've not had the opportunity for a Gold Fury yet. They did take one Gold Fury, but that evened the game up.
Exactly.
It evened the game. How is that possible when you get the first 3 kills and it evens the game up? Got to solidify this roster for JusTus. They've got to find something to capitalize on. Luckily, though, Myrmidons overextended for them. And now they'll be able to punish them back and replace that tower they lost in that left-hand lane, so it's an even lane again.
8 to 9 on the kills, 16.5 in, and this game's still very even. We saw pretty much just 1 for 1, so the tower goes down, and it was a fantastic push coming out of Myrmidons, but they get a little over-aggressive. Qiwen fights back and gets 2. So JusTus, there wasn't any hesitation. They walked right up the lane and said, you're going to take our tier 1? We're going to take your tier 1. They sent 2 hunters, and down goes Destruction.
Well, right now, this for me is going to be the game of 2 mages, and they're not even in the same lane together. That's the issue. VoteNBK on this Chronos is having a very good game. His core build is really coming online nicely right now. Across the way, though, Tynz in the mid lane on this Nox. Great performance so far. 9 kills on the board for Myrmidons. The boy's been there for every single one. And he's working more than likely here for that Rudder Tahuti because he doesn't necessarily need the cooldown reduction from Chronos Pendant after getting Shoes of Focus. So we could see a potential bigger burst coming out from this Nox.
It'd be an early round to Tahuti. 3rd item, usually we see it 4th or even 5th.
Well, we normally see penetration at 3rd,
exactly.
But now we're seeing less of the penetration. More teams today have been going for damage over the penetration.
And why is that, do you think?
I think it's down to most of the time for the builds that are coming out from most teams. We've seen a lot of sovereignties being picked up nowadays and not as many Heart Ward Amulets early. But you can see that some teams are well aware of it, like Covertactician here. He's gone for that very early Stone of Gaia. He's going to have to deal with a very magical heavy front line. Gold Fury started, though. Qiwen's here to try and stop it.
Very low. Gold Fury down to about 25%
Still
HP.
tagged.
Just now leashed. It went on to Qiwen real quick. And Myrmidons, they're going to retreat, but JusTus is going to try and catch him. Having the agilities popped. But they're still not fast enough to catch the players.
Whoa, I don't know what Jermain was thinking with that ultimate.
Going
in.
in.
Panicked too much. Teleport, though, coming out as well from Covertactician. The boys of Myrmidons should know this now, so they could look to engage, knowing that one of their frontliners is not available for them. Blinking on the backside from 2 members of Myrmidons. Berserker Barrage is out, but he's not dealing damage. Sanjo, though, went in very deep, and Jermain's like, thank you very much. I'll finger bang you in the face, little wolf.
Fast beads coming out of Jermain, spells the death of Sanjo, and because of that, Jermain's able to keep going and take out Qiwen. Now all of a sudden, Fexez by his lonesome. The boulder will follow. Big hit out of that, but Dardez taking a lot of damage from NBK. Right through the middle, goes to stun, so no slowdown for Myrmidons. NBK will be safe, but Myrmidons should be able to pick up the gold.
And meanwhile, what LeMoGoW's done on the duo lane has been perfect. He kept Covertactician pinned over here. That forced him to teleport in, and when he did teleport in, immediately Myrmidons went aggressive, knowing that the Chaac wouldn't be there. They could have stopped Chaac's teleport. That's a big key that I want to mention. They could have stopped that. They chose not to, because they knew they could win that fight without the Chaac being there with a big old silence, and then take the gold fury off the back of it.
Hey, you know, not for nothing, Hindu man. LeMoGoW did more than just keep that neutral, which is the goal there, right?
Yeah.
The goal is to keep it neutral. Just, all right, I'm here, you're here, you can't go there because I'll still be here. While everything's going on, he gets enough damage done to the tower that's a sneeze away from death.
Pretty much. We'll see which one walks over and takes it. And then what's the next thing on the list for LeMoGoW if he continues doing that? It's the Phoenix.
Sure.
And how are you going to teleport back to that? That's the issue.
You go ahead and you put a ward right there. Just put a ward and teleport to the ward, maybe?
Oh, my bad. I realised as well he's a tier 3 tier 3 teleport. If I was a tier 2, that's why I was mentioning about you can silence it out for the most part. But no, not going to be the case. 20 minutes in, though. 11-8. Gold is in the favour of Myrmidons now, and this is the issue. Myrmidons are the ones that... This is why they're finding wins, and this is why they're still in contention to potentially come to the LAN. Is the biggest problem for them is the fact that... Sorry, is the best thing for them is that they are the ones that find objectives after fights. They're finding something else, which is very important to keeping them in the running.
Exactly. I mean, I haven't said it. I haven't said it for a full split, Hinderman, but I think it's about time. This game clearly is showing how important the stuff after the stuff is, right? You get the kills, and you have to follow it up with the objective, because if you don't, you wind up in a situation where JusTus is. They have 8 kills, but they haven't been able to really find anything off of it. And that's the reason they're trailing by 4K.
And Covertactician, he's coming to a rough spot for JusTus again. He's subbing in for Zephyr, and he's up against an experienced LeMoGoW in the solo lane too, which isn't the easiest thing to have to deal with. They gave him the safe pick of Chaac, but some of his decisions in this game have really hurt JusTus, like the teleport, for example, but look at this pressure on LeFales.
LeFales gets the beads both situations. The Ymir stun and the Neith stun. Sanjo stun goes ahead and misses. Myrmidons show up, throw a basic towards the tower, and that takes it out. Sanjo off screen takes out the jungler. LeMoGoW forced into the ultimate, and he's going to claim the life of Fexez as he jumps from below. Qiwen's taken out by Jermain, who's going to keep following his enemy Hunter. NBK in some trouble. Will ride along with the Hunter for Myrmidons. He's going to turn his face away from the kills and can find himself safely underneath the tower.
So Fexez dies over in the solo lane as well.
Trouble for Covertactician. Dardez is here. LeMoGoW's here as well. All of a sudden, Myrmidons have the numbers advantage. 4-2, change everything, and Dardez takes out NBK. Covertactician looks like he's going to go the same direction, and LeMoGoW secures the 15th kill for his team.
Just secured the 15th kill, and now Myrmidons going to be able to pressure mid lane. Tier 2 tower under threat.
The whole time. I love that decision. Myrmidons go and they're aggressing on those kills, right? Before everyone is dead, Jermain went into the lane for the tower. Before those kills were done, because you don't need a 4-on-1 situation to confirm a kill. Jermain recognizes that fact and goes right to the tower.
And this is just falling apart for JusTus once again, kind of like how their season's been, unfortunately, for them. Because like in the duo lane there, sorry, in the solo lane, there was 2v2 fight, they lost a 2v2 fight and their buffs on that side. Meanwhile, there was a 3v3 fight on the left, and he traded 1-for-1, which ended up turning into the fact that Myrmidons ended up with a tier 2 tower in the mid lane and more pressure on the map once again.
You know, again, the number one player that I'm looking at on JusTus is Qiwen. Time and time again, I wind up looking towards Qiwen, and support players are all well and good, but
really good ult from LeMoGoW there. He knew the Ragnarok was going to give a bit, and immediately Sanjo didn't expect it, so he should have been. But
didn't expect down from the sky to be LeFales either. Jermain's going to come as well. Sanjo now stuck between 3 different members of Myrmidons. Left-hand side, Myrmidons just running this situation. Fexez looks to be in some trouble as well. Stunned out our 2 players, which leaves Fexez alone. Dardez takes him out. Covertactician now dealing with Jermain all by himself. He's not landing many of these basics, but 2 is all he needs. Both of them crit for 400. Puts another basic in there to confirm the kill.
Where are they going? Oh, they're going to go for mid Phoenix. Okay, I was like, they could just take tier 2 here, look for a Phoenix.
Going right for the Phoenix.
Straight to mid.
Phoenix is available.
Looks like the best option. Dardez going to tank it up. Level 17 on the support already.
So speaking of supports, I just mentioned that Qiwen is repeatedly the player that I wind up looking for JusTus. And, you know, there are a lot of popular players. Myrmidons going right for the win.
I said this could be game here, Ref. The way this was looking, what are they going to do to stop it? The respawn's a little bit too long.
Well, it's 50% down, and if you remember earlier, the highlight we showed from MLG, this is possible to defend against. Order Titan down to 800 health, but that's going to be it, folks. Myrmidons take out the Titan very, very quickly, showing you that if you give this team an inch, they're going to take a mile. Game 1 down, Myrmidons on top.
And the big difference there, the thing is, first of all, Myrmidons come into this saying, okay, we can still make LAN.
Right, yeah.
And that's what they need to do. They need to find these wins. They have to find 4 wins in a row. First of all in the season, and then they'll have to play another game against Dignitas because they'll be tied evenly on records.
Just looking for it time and time again, and the first blood this time came around from VoteNBK playing on that Chronos. You'll see him here playing for the blue team on JusTus.
This was dual lane doing very, very well. VoteNBK and Qiwen combined nicely against what we've called the Bruise Brothers all season long to put the pressure onto them the whole time. But the biggest problem that's happened here, and from my personal view of how this game's gone on, is that the rest of the game did not work out very well.
Right. I mean,
the other lanes were the ones that struggled for JusTus the whole time. Fexez under pressure constantly, Covertactician subbing in. Sanjo couldn't really find anything.
Yeah, and it was really we didn't just see enough out of any of the players, really. And Myrmidons noticed that, and they went ahead and they took the next degree. Talking about, again, JusTus's support, I wanted to sort of finish this thought process before we move on, is I keep looking at the support, right? Qiwen is repeatedly the player making plays, and, how much can a support really carry an SPL team is my question to you.
A support can make a big impact on every team. Support is probably the joint number one role alongside the jungler.
I mean,
The
I'll
jungler
agree with
supports are the ones that do the most rotations on any given team. They're the ones that have to keep an eye on multiple things because they're focused on farming, right? But they don't spend as much time focusing on that farm.
Right, and I'll agree with you to that extent in that nothing really happens without a strong support. He's your setup man. He's your guy that's going to enable the carries to deal their damage. But what does a support do when there just isn't that much by way of the carries on the team? And I feel like that's a story of JusTus. Qiwen is coming out time and time again. We see these freezes. We see these walls. I mean, we even see the damage, but we don't see much follow-up from the rest of the squad.
Have roster changes all season long, and you're going to have issues. Both these teams have struggled with this all season. JusTus especially, that's why they find themselves at the bottom again. They switched up pretty much their whole roster this split, and it's not worked out.
Unfortunately for them, unable to find it. But this time, for Myrmidons, they certainly do. And it was a big part of, due in part to the duo lane. We talked about the Bruise Brothers and Jermain. He really followed up on his support. Dardez, 7-2-7 for the Hunter.
Early on, not the greatest performance from the duo lane, but once he got going, he started finding the kills that he would be looking for. And we've mentioned it multiple times. When LeMoGoW goes off, which he did pretty well this game, and the duo lane do work. But Tynz, for me, was the silent assassin in this game that set a lot of this up. If you watch these replays, you'll see a lot of Nox damage going off here, and silences and roots that are making an impact too.
I mean, it was really a team effort here, I would say, but Jermain came through, and it's interesting because as the season went on, I personally started to question, the player's drive. We saw a lot of questionable decisions, sort of situations for Jermain that just looked like, look, we lost a whole bunch. We're at the bottom. I don't want to say he didn't care, but it seemed like from the outside looking in that Jermain had a hard time finding his dedication for these games. Somebody must have told him that they can still get to land, because this game from Jermain looked a lot different from the last couple of weeks.
Well, we've not seen him in a couple of weeks, first of all, but then the last one he did play, yeah, we mentioned that once or twice.
Exactly.
He looks pretty good, though, today, and the drive is still there. If Myrmidons could just do what they did that game, this should be a quick move on to NA.
We'll have to take a look, and of course, we hope that you guys put in the correct teams. These games were very tough to call, but if you did pick right, then Alpha Draft is treating you well, and as you can take a look right there, Jermain did a lot of the work, and you said
Tynz.
Quietly it was all about Tynz.
Well, to be fair, I expected he did do the best performance overall, was involved in a lot of the action on the map, high kill participation. Really, really good work from him.
Awesome, and this just in, we're going to take a look at one of the cooler plays of the game coming out of Tynz, actually. So Jermain might have been one of the bigger players here, but just look at this individual play coming out of Tynz.
Let's see exactly what he does. For the most part, oh, yeah.
It's one of my favorite combos in Smite right there. Nox is going to ride along with the semi-global ultimate out of Thor to allow just the combination of the 1-2 punch, and then continuing on.
Nothing better than going deep inside Thor, turning up to a fight, and making a big impact.
She just provides so much damage, is able to really be so mobile throughout the fight, and this is really the story. You don't see Tynz's name or profile picture up at the top a lot. He's not the one getting the last hits,
Start
but
the season.
a lot of those damage, a lot of the damage to enable those last hits.
I've got to give some credit to Tynz, because start of the season, he wasn't on the roster. He got the team there. He got the team to the SPL.
Right.
Then Sile comes in, replaces him. He gets benched. Then he subs in a couple of times. Then Sile leaves and he's back on the roster again. He's subbed in for when Jermain's not been here, Dardez has not been here, or the jungler's not been here.
Sure.
The guy's been around. He comes back, gets main roster again. He gets deleted on Poseidon. I remember that game. He came back, he's like, Tynz is back in mid. Tynz is no longer in mid. He got deleted the whole game as Poseidon. But as the season's gone on, he's my most improved player on the side of Myrmidons. Very, very good performances from him as the season's gone on, and he started to find his way in this SPL.
Myrmidons really have found their wins off of the combination of their players. Like I said, I was very interested to see the evolution of this team. When they first came into the league, it was all about LeMoGoW and Hades and LeMoGoW and Hades, and teams sort of figured it out, and then it wasn't about LeMoGoW and Hades anymore. And for you and I personally, it was a lot about Dardez and Jermain, and that jungle was always sort of a question mark. But Tynz has sort of been, outside of the Sio swap, Tynz has sort of been the consistent player here throughout the season.
He's started to get there as the season's gone on, is what I want to say. That's why I feel he's been the most improved.
Exactly.
Jermain and Dardez were definitely the strong. LeMoGoW in the solo lane, people know what to expect from him. Jungler's been an issue because they've been switching it about all season long. And then the mid lane, well, when Tynz has finally started to find his stride now, definitely getting there.
So with LeMoGoW, we did get to see the Hades out of him this game, and I talked about it a little bit during the game itself. LeMoGoW started the season off as, watch out, don't let this guy get Hades, and his first game on Hades was a huge marquee performance. He didn't follow it up with subsequent games to really impress many people, so Hades started routinely getting by. This time around, it surprised a lot of people.
It wasn't about the Hades. To be fair, the only reason we spoke about Hades to begin with was because this guy has probably played the most games on Hades in the world. Right? So when we mentioned LeMoGoW originally, we're like, who's LeMoGoW? Hades. That's the first thing that pops into your head every single time.
I mean, he's got a Hercules and a Ra, but people are talking about the Hades.
Because he's played ridiculous amounts of it. We'll see if he does it in game 2, though. We'll see if he does it in game 2. Yeah. He can switch it up quite easily.
Yeah, it's interesting. Hades really wasn't the reason the team won, but definitely a big part of it. We'll see if